It was another busy week with the first commercial payload being launched by SpaceX's Falcon Heavy rocket, and the release of the first ever image of a black hole. Well, sort of. Additionally, to add to this space-tacular week, SpaceIL almost became the first private organization to successfully soft-land a spacecraft on the moon. And so, without further waiting, let's dive right into this week's Space Bulletin for April 13th, 2019. To start the week off, NASA astronaut Anne McClain and Canadian Space Agency astronaut David St-Jacques, both part of the 6-person Expedition 59 crew, ventured outside the International Space Station on the third spacewalk in nearly as many weeks. The spacewalk, which started at 11:31 UTC April 8th, lasted for 6 hours 29 minutes. It was McClain's second outing and the first for St-Jacques. The task for USCVA-54 was to install Ethernet and power cables to support external science experiments, as well as to add a backup power source for the Canadarm2 remote manipulator system. But first, the two had to undo some work done on a previous spacewalk. They removed and relocated a battery adapter plate that was installed for a lithium-ion battery. That unit, however, has failed, and NASA is replacing it with 2 of the old nickel-hydrogen units. A battery charge-discharge unit also failed, and it was also replaced. The old unit will be returned to Earth sometime this year to be evaluated. A new lithium-ion battery to replace the failed one will also be launched at some point in the future aboard a cargo spacecraft. Finally, the plan was also to install slip-off preventers on the Columbus module's forward trunnions to prepare for a new commercial platform to be added sometime in the next year. However, there were problems with the installation of these devices. St-Jacques took pictures of the trunnions and sent them to the ground for evaluation. That should allow ground teams time to figure out a solution for a future spacewalk. On April 10th, the big astronomy news of the week, possibly the year, was announced by an international team of researchers, the creation of the first ever photo of a black hole, more specifically the region right up to the event horizon. While it isn't possible to physically photograph the black hole itself, as its name suggests, not even light can escape to reach our telescopes, the shadow of the object as well as its accretion disk were able to be resolved. It took 8 Earth-based radio telescopes scattered across the globe to work as a single unit in 2017 to collect petabytes of data, all of which had to be flown to Germany and the United States in helium-filled hard drives to be processed by software developed specifically for the task. Effectively Earth-sized, the Event Horizon Telescope collected light from a black hole at the center of the galaxy known as M87, located about 55 million light-years away. This supermassive black hole really was. It is estimated to have a mass of 6.5 billion times that of the Sun. In the processed photo, the dark black region is larger than our entire solar system. While black holes have been theorized for more than 100 years and indirectly seen via gravity signatures, this was the first direct visual evidence and is consistent with predictions in Einstein's theory of general relativity. Later that day, Lockheed Martin unveiled a lunar lander design it said could quickly be developed to help NASA return humans to the moon by 2024 to meet Vice President Mike Pence's challenge to the agency. Presented during the 35th Space Symposium, this 2-stage lander would be heavily based off of the Orion crew capsule, which Lockheed Martin is also building. The idea is to incorporate as many similar systems as possible to speed up the development. It would also require the use of NASA's proposed lunar gateway in a highly elliptical lunar orbit. Should Lockheed Martin go ahead with the plan, which it says would require additional resources from NASA, it hopes to have a lander in place at the gateway ready for human use by the third flight of the Space Launch System, Exploration Mission 3, in 2024. The next day, moon news continued. Israeli nonprofit SpaceIL attempted to land its Beresheet spacecraft on the lunar surface. It would have been the first private organization to accomplish the feat and would have made Israel the 4th country to soft land on the moon. However, it wasn't meant to be. At 1919 UTC, about midway through a roughly 15-minute descent burn by its main engine, several problems cropped up, one with an internal measurement unit and another with the vehicle's main engine. This prompted controllers in Israel to quickly send a signal to reset the engine. However, that would not be enough, and the spacecraft slammed into the lunar surface at the Sea of Serenity.
We unfortunately have not managed to land successfully. We are the 7th country to orbit the moon and the 4th to reach the moon's surface. And it's a tremendous achievement up to now.
SpaceIL is still expected to be awarded the $1 million Moonshot Award by the X Prize Foundation, as the organization accomplished a lot and inspired a whole country. While SpaceIL has not yet made a decision, it is hoped that the team will build another lander and try again at some point. Regardless, SpaceIL tweeted that Beresheet's trek as the first private spacecraft to go to the moon will forever change space travel. A couple hours later, SpaceX launched its Falcon Heavy rocket after a 24-hour delay because of high upper-level winds. The rocket got off the ground at 22:35 UTC, April 11th, with its first commercial payload, Arabsat 6A. The triple-core booster rose from the pad at Kennedy Space Center's Launch Complex 39A, using its 27 Merlin 1D engines to begin accelerating the satellite into a highly elliptical orbit. Ultimately, Arabsat 6A will reside in a geostationary orbit roughly 35,800 kilometers above Earth. The spacecraft was built by Lockheed Martin on behalf of Saudi Arabian company Arabsat and is designed to provide television, internet, and phone services for the Middle East and Northern Africa for up to 15 years. For the massive rocket itself, all 3 first-stage boosters were successfully recovered, including a unique twin-core landing at nearby Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. The spectacle produced 2 sets of sonic booms, announcing its return to the Cape. SpaceX's next Falcon Heavy is slated for this summer. The next single-stick Falcon 9 is planned for April 26th to send a Cargo Dragon spacecraft to the International Space Station. Those were just some of the highlights of the week on this Space Bulletin. A lot more news happened, and you can find these and many others at spaceflightinsider.com. We do our best to bring you as much of the latest space news as possible, and will continue to do so. However, if you're able, we could use your help on Patreon. Most of our writers and photographers are volunteers, and just a contribution of $1 a month will go a long way to help change that. And as always, if you haven't already, be sure to share this video, subscribe to Spaceflight Insider on YouTube, and hit the notification bell to be notified when more space-related videos are uploaded. See you next week.